inside is also community. And if it's safe and affordable, that's an important part of being safe. But you also have to have psychological safety. And if it's not psychologically safe, then you're not safe. I brought this piece of music here because it reminds me of where I was when I first exited the treatment facilities and moved out into community. I was in one of those places, you understand? I was in one of those places where they encouraged folk like us to go. Rats everywhere, broken glass in the driveways, junkies with baseball bats bashing in my windows, stealing whatever they could steal. That's not safe. Sirens blaring all hours of the night. That's not safe. It keeps me like this. I can't sleep. And when I can't sleep, when we can't sleep, we don't get rest. We don't rest, we don't get it. There's one important fact that I think is oftentimes missed in the recovery story, and that is respect. That's respect. Anybody in here ever experienced a traumatic event in their life? Yeah. A loss of a loved one, loss of a house or a job, or received a mental health diagnosis. Anybody like that in here? Anybody? When that event happened, what did it feel like? Just yell out an answer.
Hell.
What was it?
Hell.
Hell. Horrible.
Devastating.
Shitty. Devastating. What?
The door closing.
I tell you, I was all those things and then some. Because when I wound up at that, what I call safe house, well, it was supposed to be a safe house, really supported housing, I was a mess. I was an absolute mess. M-E-S-S. Misery and evil, side by side. I think that actually defined who I was, didn't it, honey? I have to ask my wife because she met me then. And one of the first things out of my mouth and when we were introduced was, I've got something I need to share with you. I have a mental health diagnosis. You know what she said?
Me too.
Me too. The fact of the matter is, everybody on the planet has some traumatic event in their lives. Every individual on the planet has experienced what we experience on a day-to-day basis. The only difference between them and us is we have the diagnosis. Okay? We have the diagnosis. And that sets us apart. And the reason why stigma still exists today is that people are afraid of getting a diagnosis.
Right.
They are afraid of being who they have defined us as being. And if we allow ourselves to continue to be defined in that way, then they win. You read my bio. Many of you know that I was in the Navy. I took an oath to defend this country, the Constitution of the United States of America, and as the citizens that it served. It didn't say everybody except individual dependents. It said citizens. We all are citizens of this country. And as citizens of this country, we have rights, we have responsibilities. Structural stigma should not be allowed to continue. Public stigma, brief definition thereof. Anybody remember the Kaiser Foundation report survey that came out a couple years ago?
Many of them.
Anybody? How did it read? 33% of Americans don't want individuals with mental illness living next door to them. Another third
Won't
of
get
those
married.
surveyed didn't want individuals with mental illness going to school with them. The tragic part of it was when individuals with mental illness were asked the same questions, we responded the same way. Let's not get it twisted. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. I did a presentation over in Pennsylvania a few years ago, and I asked the assembly there, I said, where did you learn how to be mentally ill? That's a fair question. Where did you learn how to be mentally ill? I tell you where I learned. In my treatment facility. Before I arrived at my treatment facility, I didn't even know what mental illness was. I've been normal all my life. I'm a 15-year veteran of the world's finest Navy. I flew the A6. A commissioned officer. And the image, the impression of someone with a mental illness certainly wasn't me. I was a shit-hot aviator. Tom Cruise didn't have nothing on me. Public stigma exists because people are afraid. People are afraid of what they don't know. People are afraid of things that they think they know, but too afraid to investigate. And that's why our stories are worth pure gold. We have a responsibility in this country to inform the country what mental illness is. And to educate individuals so that they don't go on believing the untruth. Here's the most important thing that I want to say to all of us this morning. And I have to keep reminding myself of this every day. Because public stigma exists, we have a tendency, when we feel that those reports, those news reports, in our gut, we have a tendency to internalize that. We have a tendency to, in effect, believe some of the press. We have a tendency to, hate to say it, become seduced. Seduced. Anybody been seduced?
No. No.
Other than myself?
No.
We have a tendency to be seduced by our illness. And what that means is that we play out the labels that have been given to us. We isolate, we drop out, we go into our shells, we go into our cocoons.
Nope.
My wife reminds me all the time, I know when something's bothering you. I said, how do you know that, man? She said, because you don't look the same, you don't talk the same. She's right. I can do that physically and not emotionally. And many of us do the same thing. We go into that area where the trauma exists and continue to exist for some of us. We go into that area of hurt and we try in effect to analyze, override things that is best forgotten. We can't relive the past. Past is gone. Future's not guaranteed. All we have is the moment. With respect, which I've had to say, I do receive it. I might not receive it, but I do receive it. With respect, resilience is unleashed. We can't carry two thoughts in our minds at the same time. Try it. You don't believe it? Try it. Don't think red. All right? Don't think red. Think of something else, but don't think red. All right? Whatever you do, don't think about this lady's red shirt. Don't think about that red bag that's sitting next to you. Don't think about the red sun. Who's not thinking about red? It's impossible. It's impossible to hold two thoughts in our minds, in our heads at the same time. And if self-stigma continues to live there, we have no room to be the force that we can be. Does that make sense to anybody? If we allow self-stigma to reside in our hearts and in our minds, the power that we can be will never be realized. I'm happy to say I know a few folks in this room whom I see as having made that transition. Whom I see, because every time I show up somewhere, and hey, I remember you. I ran into one lady. Sandra, where are you? Where are you, Sandra? Sandra that met me back at the breakfast bar. Sandra said, I saw you 6 years ago.
I got a couple of flavors like Lipton, Hershey, decaffeinated.
I don't know if she remembers me, but as long as she remembers the message, that's the most important.
I can tell you what flavor.
And the most important thing for us to know right now, right here, is that there is not the ability, human-wise, unless you're lucid. Anybody remember Lucid? Unless you're lucid, you can't hold two thoughts in your head at the same time. You can't be that trauma victim and be that hero at the same time. It's literally impossible. All right? Just a few more and I'm done. To my brothers and sisters of a different mother, we are the most diverse nation in the world. Some of us, as a result of our diversity, have been stigmatized, have been discriminated against. Some of us, because of our sexual orientation, have been stigmatized. Some of us, because of our religious beliefs, have been stigmatized. The subject of intersecting stigma is just that. It's stuff that's going on because the public persists in labeling and having us to believe, and in our minds, if not in our hearts, know in effect we are less than. If we treat each other as less than, then we've made right everything that the public has said about us. If we continue to stigmatize ourselves and one another, then it bears out that survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation. We validate their results. We as individuals with the diagnosis have just bought into and became, in effect, the enemy. We've deserted our post. We've given in. We've been seduced. We're all human beings. We all deserve respect. And with respect, there comes resilience. With resilience, we unlock a cage and we free a spirit that is more beautiful, more dynamic, more creative, more powerful, more attractive, more intellectually gifted than anything on the planet. You know, I remember that NAMI poster that had all of these famous individuals on the poster. Abraham Lincoln, Van Gogh, you name it. The list goes on and on and on.
That's shy.
And what the poster was trying to say to us is that you can be gifted, you can be talented, you can be a force, and have a little too. That's what it's saying to us. That's what it's saying to us. The challenge that we have with recovery is that we've forgotten the most important ingredient of all: respect. Respect for who we are, respect for self, respect for others. We're on a healing path. Recovery has been defined for us and put out there in ways that allow us to perceive recovery as being having a job or going back to school or being financially secure or being physically healthy. And it keeps us on a treadmill because if we feel like we're a little bit too overweight, if we feel like we're not the intellectual giant that we want to be, if we feel like we're a little bit poor, that somehow or another we haven't recovered. Recovery is about having peace of mind. It's about healing the wound. It's about loving ourselves for who we are. It's about living the dream that we dream. In a dream a long time ago, I asked, why me? Why me? See, because I think sometimes I have a tendency to think of me as being that ship-out aviator with the dark glasses and the dress white uniform. I tend to think of myself as being that individual and not standing here as an individual with mental illness. Why me? Why me? And after years and years and years of asking the question, why me? I lay on the floor in my halfway house, that supported housing, near death. And the answer came. Why not you? Why not you? No one can do the work that I have ascribed for you to do. I've been with you all your life. Who would you rather I be? Would you rather your daughter? Would you rather your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, your cousin, your baby? Who would you have me to be? Why not you? The fact of the matter is, I'm glad it is me. I'm glad it is me. I'm glad it is me. Because I'm a warrior. I am a warrior. Don't let there be any doubt about it. And I'll face down discrimination. I'll face down stigma now, tomorrow, and for the rest of my life. Because it's the rest of my life that I have to live. Live it, it's yours. Be thankful for who you are.